what's up, Nitro RC nerds here. In this video, we're going to walk you through how to break in a Nitro engine. First, here's my disclaimer. I learned 5 seconds after starting my very first Nitro engine the importance of knowing exactly what you're doing before you're doing it. So consequently, let's first just get a very basic understanding of the intent behind breaking in an engine. So the simplified version is that when the engine gets hot for the very first time, the mass of the components inside will change. And the idea is really just to slowly seat the components together, which begins happening around 200 degrees. And once they've reached their, I guess what you'd call like their terminal mass change, everything is fit and you'll have a perfectly running engine. Now there are a lot of different methods to breaking in engines, and this will be, I think, our 9th or 10th engine to break in. And this method that I'm going to show you today has worked well for me, so it's what I use. I know a lot of people like to heat cycle, and I certainly do not dismiss that. I think my approach is more of a hybrid, which you'll soon see. I did have probably an hour-long chat with the designer of the Works engines when I got my B6, and he was pretty adamant about not heat cycling. And his basic premise was the risk-reward was just not there. So in all candor, that kind of turned me away from just pure heat cycling. Again, not saying it doesn't work, but if what I've done in the past has worked, why change it? The number one problem you're going to run into when breaking in an engine is starting it for the first time. These engines can be really tight, especially like a higher end race engine, and that's actually a good thing. But if you're using, let's say, a starter box, let's make sure that you have everything aligned correctly. If you're using a pull start, a little bit easier, I think, in my opinion. But the one thing I would certainly recommend is heat. So if you can get yourself a hairdryer or heat gun, you definitely want to take advantage of that. And really what the heat does is it just makes the engine easier to turn over. And then finally, make sure that you're ready. Okay, because you never know how these engines are going to react when you first start one. So just kind of be thinking ahead and have a plan to be able to stop it if things go wrong. So just put your thumb over the stinger, or pinch the line, do whatever you have to do. Now we're just going to give everything a quick check. My prediction is going to be it will not start at first. And the reason is because the idle gap, the default on here, is really small. It looks like under 0.5 millimeter, but I'm going to leave it as is first and see. If it doesn't start, then I'm going to open it up just a tad. For most of the first tank, I'm going to allow it to idle on the starter box, and then maybe rev the engine a little bit toward the last quarter of the tank, and try not to actually run the tank out, because at least not on the first one, because it'll lean itself out pretty good. So the most important thing, though, out of all of this is after each tank is the cool down period. And not just the ability to cool it down or the length of it, but to ensure that your piston is what they call at bottom dead center. Now, how do you tell that? Well, you can see right here, I'm turning the flywheel with my finger, and it's turning really easily, then it gets tough. And I turn it the other direction, turns very easily, then it gets hard to turn. That's how you know that you're at the bottom of the stroke right there. All right, got engine, heating up the engine. All right, there we go. Got it running. We're going to let it idle for this first tank. It never hurts to check the temperature. The tank is almost finished. Give it a little bit of gas. All right, so we got the first tank through it, and you can see here I've got the piston cooling at bottom dead center, and we're going to let it cool for about 20 minutes. And also, per my prediction, I actually did have to open up the carb setting quite a bit, probably, I would say almost close to half of a turn. But we got it started and idled fine. All right, so 2 quick things that you'll want to be aware of that we just encountered when we first started it. We got it started no problem, but as I predicted, I had to open the carb probably maybe half of a turn. I figured I would, like I mentioned earlier, just looking at it, it was barely even open at all. So, but if you do that, be very, very careful, especially, the first time starting an engine. And then the second thing, and this is specifically for bump boxes, is the flywheel did get stuck at top dead center when I first tried to start it. No big deal, that's quite typical. So what you do is just use like a slotted screwdriver, turn the buggy over, and then just kind of position the flywheel back to bottom dead center. It helps to loosen your glow plug when you do that. So next what we're going to do is take the buggy out and drive it very slowly, probably quarter throttle, just nice and easy up and down the street. So what I just did there is I ran it for about 2/3 of a tank, and you saw I was going about quarter throttle. I got the temps up to about 190, and now I'm letting it rest again, piston that bottom dead center. I haven't touched any needles yet. For the remainder third of this tank, what I'll do is I'll just give it some short bursts and keep, again, the temperature's probably around 190. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we're going to run it through its third tank, and with this tank I'm going to give it some half throttle. Again, just kind of slowly, begin to try to seat the components. This tank, I will get it up into the 200-degree range. So we're going to work on the fifth tank. And actually, I've done 5 tanks, so this will be the 6th, and we're just going to heat cycle a little bit, okay? It still needs to be tuned, of course. Oh, we're going to race? Okay. You can do better than that. Now at this point, we're going to go for lucky tank number 7, and this is where we're going to open it up a little bit. Bud, kick it.
We just talked about that.
All right. All right, I think we're doing good. Okay, so what's next? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is replace the glow plug before I tune it, because quite often what happens is if you're lucky enough to get through a break-in process with your glow plug intact, that's good. There's metal shavings and whatnot that will hit the coil and all that stuff. Here's what you want to look at. When I start this car, I'm going to take the igniter out, and you'll hear the RPM change. So that gives me a good indication that I want to change the glow plug. Listen to this. Okay, so that's it. That's the initial break-in process, and our next step will begin to tune it. And the reason I say initial, because quite often these engines, they'll take upwards to 3/4, if not a full gallon, to fully break themselves in. And when we tune it, which will be in a video upcoming, we're not going to necessarily just set the tune and just go balls to the wall with it. We're going to, gradually tune it, keep an eye on its temperament, make sure that we're doing our best to optimize it without overloading the engine. So just to recap, understand the intent behind it. You're going to allow the components inside to seat together, and more importantly, allow it to cool while they constrict, ensuring that you're at bottom dead center with your piston. Take it very easy. You're just simply bringing the engine to life very slowly. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.